The reality is that the decline of US imperialism is a slow process, and its final defeat must be brought about inside the US itself by the US working class. No one else can finally put an end to the US ruling class other than the American worker. That's the bold truth of this, that the US ruling class will continue to rampage and make trouble all over the world, continue to push coups and continue to push so-called color revolutions, regime change wars. They will continue to employ the services of fascist gangs, whether these are Ukrainian fascists, Syrian fascists, Central Asian fascists, South American fascists. International fascism is in the service of the US imperialists, has been since World War II, arguably earlier, but certainly since World War II. And they'll always find people who are willing to serve them. There's no point denying that. And the final defeat of this can only be brought about, as I said, inside the US itself, which leads me to point 5. No one else is going to do the work of liberating us in the West from decaying imperialism, nor should we attempt to outsource our class struggle to anybody else. The defeat of imperialism will require a long and arduous fight. And that the long and arduous fight in terms of our engagement with it is domestically. We must build our forces to fight the domestic class struggle in solidarity with our natural allies, the oppressed peoples of the world.
Hello, this is Genocide Joe Biden, and this is my swan song. I want the history books to reflect it. I'm the guy. I'm the doddering, sadistic, demented sociopath who sniffed my way through 16 months of socks and 16 months of genocide. I'm the guy who did the genocide of our time. I'm the guy who oversaw the torching of international law, normalization, the systematic destruction of hospitals, oversaw young girls getting machine gunned in cars, and the rescue workers who came to save her getting machine gunned too, dropping bombs on babies and burying tens of thousands of civilians under rubble. I kept it going as long as I could, Jack. And you know, when it's time to give way, that's what American presidents do. It's time to allow a billionaire real estate investor, rebranded as the Middle East envoy, to go tell our allies what's what. I told my henchmen, I said, hey, that's as much death and destruction as we can do. But we did a lot of death and destruction. And I just hope the history books reflect that. I'm the guy who traded the United States moral legitimacy for weapons manufacturers' profits. And the profits of presidents matter. So, you know, I'm Genocide Joe, and this is my curtain call. One last blood-soaked ice cream cone, and then I'm gonna strap on my adult diaper and dominate the race course in Mario Karts. Genocide Joe, signing.
What is up, love doves? Little Raven coming at you from a Sunday evening. Thank you for sharing headspace with me today. It was a brisk, beautiful, sunny day here today in Great Bird City, and I went out to the canal and swung my kettlebell around, and I noticed the canal was real low, like almost completely drained. And I was like, ruh-roh, why is the canal drained? Luckily, I discovered that it was for planned maintenance, and they announced it and everything, and I was like, okay. Because, you know, like many of us, my heart goes out to the people affected right now by fire events. And I just want to say, before you immediately just say climate change and end the conversation, I want you to think about corporate arson and profiteering. Hedge funds are going to be making a bunch of money. And 8 fires started in 8 different spots at the same time. Coincidences happen in life all the time, but I'm just saying, if you go back in the archives, I did a whole episode about the profiteering that happens when wildfires happen. Wildfires are big money, big money. So don't be duped into just being like, oh, it's climate change and there's too many plastic straws and that's why the turtles are dying. It's like, listen, I love turtles as much as the next person, and I actually do like metal straws. I'm a metal straw guy. But there's something called corporate arson, and that's all I got to say about that. So my heartfelt condolences to people that are affected out in LA, and also a massive shout out to the firefighters. I love firefighters. So big shout out to the firefighters. Mexico sent some firefighters. Mexico sent a team of firefighters. Anyway, I'm gathered on the mic tonight to discuss what is becoming the pillar of my 2025 ethos, and that is mental health. I've said it before, say it again, said it a million times. Mental health is the foundation of everything. If you don't have your mental right, then forget about it. And every day is a unique struggle to find that mental equilibrium. And so I was just going to talk a little bit off the cuff about how do we handle this, you know? And is it okay to feel down sometimes? I think it is okay to feel down sometimes. I think it's the way of things. It's the ups and the downs, the peaks and the valleys. But the key is, as a Taoist, you got to study nature. And when you're out in nature, you like to see those babbling brooks. You like to see the creeks, the little bubbles, little fishes, and the water's moving. It's moving over the rocks. It's creating energy. Victor Schauberger actually proved it, for Austrian forest scientist. He proved it that moving water has a current to it, has electricity to it. And the one thing that you don't want is you don't want the stagnant water. Like, no one wants just stagnant water. It gets gross, you know, it gets like, it's nasty. Like I love jumping in pools of water, but if it's this nasty stagnant water, you don't want to jump in that because it's gross. So don't allow your mental water to become stagnant. And I'm speaking to myself right now as much as anybody. So that's the thing about processing emotions and mental health is I do not believe in toxic positivity. I think sometimes you're gonna feel down because you can only appreciate the peaks if you traverse the valleys in life. You can't just be constantly at peak. That's toxic positivity that quickly descends into inauthenticity, which is soul destroying. So you gotta be real about how you feel, but then when you're going through a difficult patch, it's just very important to keep the water churning. Just do whatever you have to do to keep the water churning. For me, exercise is so critical. My friend sent me a 55-pound kettlebell, and I've been fucking working with this 55-pound kettlebell. I lug this thing into Planet Fitness, swing it around, and I lug it out. And it's like anything in life, you just do it until it becomes easier, you know? The more you do something, the easier it becomes. And day by day, I just feel myself becoming more comfortable with this 55-pound kettle, swinging it around like a wild man over here. I was listening to the renowned physician and addiction specialist, Dr. Gabor Mate the other day on a podcast, and he was saying how all addiction is an effort to run away from pain, and the only way to go through, to resolve the addiction is to go through the pain, is to sit with the pain. And that resonates for sure. You know, I'm not gonna lie and say that I don't have addictions. Now, I do, I've got my addictions, but I have stopped drinking the alcohol. But I remember when I was like completely out of control with the alcohol, it was just constant effort to avoid the pain of facing the reality of my addiction to the alcohol. It's like this vicious cycle. So there's a lot of power in just facing what it is that you feel. So like, I struggle with depression for sure, but I also struggle a lot with anxiety. And I've been working on applying Dr. Mate's wisdom to my anxiety. So making an effort to just sort of, if not embrace, then just sit with and deal with the anxiety. And like, I notice in meditation, sometimes when you're sitting in meditation, you'll get an itch, you know, like maybe like a fly will land on you or like something, or you'll just get like an itch and you'll want to scratch. And I've done a practice where you just refuse to scratch it. And also acupuncture is really good for this too, because in acupuncture, when the needles are in, you don't want to be like moving around too much because the needles are working their magic with the chi. And sometimes with the chi, it makes like, you get sensations in certain parts of your body where you like really want to like move, or you really want to itch, but you just don't. Instead, you just lean into the sensation. And I've found that that is a very, very powerful practice. Rather than just immediately scratch the itch, you just sit with it. Sit with it and like handle. And it's definitely not easy, but if you apply your will, you can do anything. And I'll say this, when you just focus on the sensation rather than scratching it, it fades. It turns into something else. It moves. Nothing ever stays stagnant in nature forever. So it does move into something else. So that is a very beautiful, powerful thing about us humans. We have free will, and our willpower is very strong. And if you apply it to anything, you can do it, you know? So I think when it comes to mental health, that's very apropos. If you are feeling depressed, sit with the depression and look at the depression. Now this is where it gets tricky, because you don't want to then just dwell in the depression. So you got to keep the water churning. You got to keep it bubbling. With the anxiety, it's like, anxiety is intense because it's a physical sensation. You're actually like physically feeling, you know, like I get panic attacks and stuff. You're like physically like, your body is like fritzing out. But I'm working on, rather than just like doing something to distract myself, or, you know, I'm working on more and more, because I do things to distract myself. I exercise, for example. I run around with my kettlebell. I do things to distract myself from the anxiety. I'm not saying that's not like a valid method, but I also think there's power in muscling through and like sitting with the anxiety and looking at the anxiety and being like, okay, I feel so anxious right now. What is happening? Like, what am I anxious about? Oftentimes for me, it's like around my heart chakra, and I feel like a knot of energy. And so I can like sit and I start focusing on my heart chakra, and I always see it as like these knots of energy. And then you can just, with your mind telepathically, you can start to like loosen the knots of energy. And this is like the equivalent of keeping the water bubbling, keeping the water churning so as not to become stagnant. These are just some thoughts I've I have been having and am having. I mean, it truly is, mental health is truly like a daily adventure. It's a daily adventure. You wake up and it's like, okay, new day. And each day brings like challenges. Each day brings things that are triggering, challenging. Each day also brings things that are beautiful and amazing and synchronistic and flowy and stuff. And if we can just sit with all of it, I think that is a very, very powerful practice. Now, there's this concept I really like called mental wealth. And mental wealth is about investing in habits today that build your resilience mentally for the future. It's like creating a mental savings account. You can withdraw from it when life gets tough. There's 5 pillars to mental wealth. You got sleep, diet, exercise, stress management, and exogenous compounds. Sleep is very, very important. I don't have to tell you all that. And the acupuncture has helped me a lot with my sleep, I will say. You got diet, what are you putting in your body? Exercise, how you're moving your body. The stress management, how do you manage stress when it happens? That's where you can like sit with it, or you can meditate on it. You can like really dig into that and start to untie those knots of energy. And then the exogenous compounds. This is the beautiful world of supplements, friends. And there's a supplement that I've been taking that's been helping me enormously, and it's the Magic Mind. And for the first time ever, Magic Mind now has a 24 hours pack. They've got focus shots and they've got sleep shots bundled up for the first time. And as a Barbarian Noetics listener, you have a chance to get 45% off the Magic Mind bundle for 24 hours sleep and focus. That's almost half off. You go to magicmind.com/noeticsjan. That's magicmind.com/noeticsjan. The link will be in the description, and you get 45%, almost half off this fantastic supplement to help build your mental wealth. Magic Mind is a mental performance shot. It gives you focus, clarity, sharper mind. It lessens your stress. It's nice, clean energy. The sleep shots help you sleep. The focus shots help you focus. All ingredients are third-party tested, sourced from the best suppliers. And what I love about Magic Mind is they donate 5 cents for each bottle sold to mental health charities that help U.S. homeless communities. The mushrooms are grown organically in California. They use the nano encapsulation technology, which makes the ingredients more bioabsorbable. And what's beautiful is there's no risk. So Magic Mind is so confident in what they've built that they will refund 100%, no questions asked, for 100 days after buying. So that's magicmind.com/noeticsjan for 45% off the Magic Mind Focus and Sleep Bundle. I've been taking the shots and they have been helping me on my mental health journey, and that's just a fact. All right, friends. Well, this brings us to the end of this little mini ep, but before I sign off for tonight, I want to tell a short tale about corporate culture and why it sucks ass. So you guys know I love Planet Fitness, but I love Planet Fitness for the people that are there because it's a very like non-pretentious, laid-back environment to get your endorphins, and also the really good people that work for Planet Fitness. There's really excellent people that work. They've always been really good to me. and I really appreciate them. So I want to make that very clear. I really appreciate the workers at Planet Fitness. I do not appreciate the corporate structure, the corporate overlords at Planet Fitness. They have pissed me off time and time again. And it's just because I need my endorphins so bad that I stay a loyal customer. Because it's been years now that I've been giving Planet Fitness my monthly donation, and I figure it's a pretty fair exchange because, as I said, the workers are amazing. They treat me really well. But time and time again, the corporate overlords piss me off. I've talked before about when they took the 50% discount for Black Card members away from the Celsius drinks. That was a dirty move. Just a dirty move. And then it just resulted in me stopping buying my Celsiuses from Planet Fitness. And then I go to Fry's and I get my Celsiuses on sale and I bring them into Planet Fitness. Okay, fast forward to today. So my friend, shout out, he's in Milwaukee, if you're listening. He sent me a 55-pound kettlebell and I've been working with this thing. And in order to work with it, I have to take it into the gym. It's never been a problem. I've been working with it now for a couple months. I take it into the gym, I work out, I do my swings, lift it around, getting used to the weight. Because Planet Fitness, they only have up to 40. One branch has a 40-pound kettlebell, but most branches only have 30-pound kettlebells. It's not enough for what I'm trying to do over here. I'm trying to get comfortable with 55 pounds because really I want to get comfortable with 65 pounds at one point, but you got to start somewhere. So I go in today and, especially before I go in to start my workout, my mental is usually pretty shaky because I need the endorphins to keep my mental right. So this is before endorphins. So my mental's already shaky. I'm lugging my 55-pounder in and a dude that is not normally there, he's closer. And I'm not talking any shade right now on this individual because he's just doing his job. But he tells me as I come in, he's like, oh, you can't bring that 55-pounder into the gym. I was like, why not? He's like, if corporate came in right now and they saw you bring that in, it would be a huge deal. And I'm like, huh? He's like, yeah, even if you try to bring in a jump rope, if you tried to bring in a jump rope and corporate saw you do that, it would be a huge deal. And I'm just thinking, God damn, this is such an example of why corporate culture sucks. Corporate culture is dictatorial. It is hierarchical and it is dictatorial. And it gives rise to people who like the power for power's sake. And I know my fellow listeners can relate to this. Everyone has had a job where you're subjected to the whims of supervisors and corporate overlords who wield power for power's sake. So, we're taught to worship democracy in this country. You know what is the least democratic thing ever? Corporate culture. Corporate culture is just hierarchical, and the people that rise to the top are the most power-hungry freaks. We need collectively owned businesses, and we need to dismantle corporate culture because it makes everything shitty. I'm just saying there is no reason why I shouldn't be allowed to bring my 55-pound kettlebell into this gym with other kettlebells in the gym. And if it's such a concern that I'm going to break my toe and sue Planet Fitness or something, have me sign a waiver. Everyone signs waivers for everything. Just have me sign a waiver. I promise to not sue Planet Fitness if I swing my kettlebell into my own face and bash my face. I hate how corporate rules try to nerf absolutely everything and they just bend over for the fucking liability goons and everything just becomes sucky. What makes bowling alleys fun? I assume many of you enjoy bowling alleys as much as I do. What makes bowling alleys fun? Bowling alleys they're like the least corporate companies in our society. You can do anything you want in a bowling alley. And sure, I'm sure they have rules and stuff, but they're never enforced. They're very chill about it. The last time I went to a bowling alley, I befriended this dude in the lane next to me, and he let me use his own personal bowling ball that he brought into the bowling alley because it was a weighted bowling ball. And he's like, you haven't even bowled until you try with the weighted bowling ball. And he was right. I was way better with the weighted bowling ball. It created conversation. I was able to connect this dude, practice with the weighted bowling ball. Imagine if he had come in with his own bowling ball and they had looked at him and been like, hey man, if corporate sees you bring that bowling ball from outside, all hell's going to break loose. And also, don't treat me like an employee. I'm a customer. I'm not an employee. I don't give a fuck if corporate comes in and says something to me. If corporate comes in and says something to me about my 55-pound kettlebell, I'll tell them to go fuck themselves, and I'm no longer going to go to this gym. Corporate culture is the worst thing ever. And I don't think it's ever going to change until we become a less corporate society. So I don't know what the answer is because things are getting corporatized left and right, but support independent businesses, fuck corporate culture, and low-key, I'm going to keep bringing my 55-pound kettlebell in until I see those corporate motherfuckers directly, and then we'll have it out. All right, Little Raven signing out. Much love, everybody. Bye-bye.
Baby, you know, en mi cama la que ya te extraña. Hace tiempo que no lo hacemos porque la amistad se daña. Y ambos sabemos